Scott, can you tell us a little bit about the challenge that you were trying to solve and how you went about solving that problem with the Relativity platform?
Yeah, so at Reilly Pozner, our mass tort division stores all their case data about their clients inside the system, and they were extracting that data and to do calculations to basically try to figure out what their the total value of their settlement potential is. And they were running it through Excel, and then they were passing Excel documents back and forth between each other. And so they came to me and they said, well, we need something to manage this data better. And the first thing they wanted was an Access database. I'm like, no. You already have all the data in Relativity. Let's just have Relativity do the calculations and teach Relativity to do the calculations. And so that's what we did. We built a calculation engine, and specifically within the damages module.
Cool.
Scott, what types of cases at the firm require that you do this work? What types of cases would you calculate damage? Is it for all litigation matters, certain type? How prevalent is this?
Potentially, but we have two divisions at Reilly Pozner. We have commercial and civil litigation and mass torts. Mass torts was where they wanted this to be because they have like 5,000-6,000 clients that they have to manage, and each client is a separate case, so personal injury case. So there's a lot of data that needs to be managed, and so that's why we manage it in Relativity.
And how was that team using Relativity before damages calculator? Mass tort is not something you always hear about when you think about managing documents in Relativity.
Originally it was in Excel spreadsheets, and then they wanted it inside of Access, so we put it in Access, and then we moved. Then I told them, this is no longer supportable. I want to move it over into Relativity because we had Relativity as a litigation platform, an e-discovery platform, but it made perfect sense to bring it all in there because it's so dynamic and extendable. So, but mainly with the damages calculator, it's just the mass torts division that uses it, and they use it to basically assess if a settlement that they're negotiating is going to be beneficial to the individual client and also to the attorneys and all the underlying referring attorneys.
Okay.
So these calculations, they must be pretty complicated and have a lot of moving parts to them. Can you talk about how this solution has helped improve some of the accuracy and save some time?
Well, before when they used to extract the data out of Relativity and put it in Excel, there was always a danger of somebody messing a formula up. Also fragmentation, so what version of Excel are you working on? So by moving it into Relativity and having it in a controlled environment and then ordering the calculations and having a set configuration and scenario, we're able to reduce the amount of calculation fragmentation, and also gives the attorneys instant view of where their cases are at and what's going on.
Cool. Can we step through some of the screenshots?
Yep. All right, so this is a gnarly screenshot. So here is a finished calculation. So basically it shows what was a formula that was entered into the system, and what was converted into numbers, and then the resulting value that got entered into a Relativity field.
It's a lot of if statements.
Yeah, so
Makes me nervous.
Yeah, so they had this really complicated master settlement agreement that had this crazy grid of different values based on injury and dosage, and so to make that happen, we had to use if statements because I didn't want to actually code in the event handler. The whole purpose of creating this damages calculator is not for me to go back or anybody else to go back to the code to teach Relativity to calculate something. So all you got to do is just build a formula, and you enter the formula, and it does the calculation for you.
That's really awesome. How did you get a calculations engine into Relativity? You've turned it into like Excel.
Yeah, so what I did is I needed something to take mathematical expressions and calculate it for me, and it had to be dynamic enough and be able to extend itself. So there was an open source project that I used as NCalcs, and I incorporated it into the engine, and then I put the connections and the configuration and management within Relativity to feed data into that expression engine and then bring back the data back out.
Awesome.
We're gonna figure out what the cyclomatic complexity of that if statement is later. What are we seeing here?
So here on the bottom is individual cases, and we are trying to calculate what is the potential gross settlement amount for each client based on primary point value. And then the grid on the pivot on top is basically to tell the lead attorney, does he have enough certain types of injury to meet a threshold to agree to the settlement agreement.
So we're looking at a pivot here. When you saw 9.3, do you think there's going to be some more interesting analysis or reporting you're going to be able to provide for your
Yeah, I'm
attorneys?
going to be taking all those pivots. I'm going to make a dashboard. I'm going to give them all view into all the data.
The gears are turning.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
What are we looking at here?
So this is the configuration table or configuration page. So what this is basically you're telling Relativity, or you're telling the damages calculator, for this object, for this field, for this choice, or this value, I want it to have this, well, you're basically converting choices and multi-choices into a numerical value here. Because everything has to go in numerical value into the engine prior to that. And so instead of just being limited to whole number fields and currency fields, we gave it extensibility to do objects, single choices, and multi-choices.
Wow.
Cool. Got one more here.
So this is the formula input page. So you tell basically, this is the name of the formula, and then you tell it, I want the result of this formula go into this field. And then there's also order, so which calculation goes first, so you can reference prior calculations as the system is going through the event handler. And then you have the formula input, and then I basically gave like an instructions for the mass torts case administrators on how to use the formula.
Okay.
Awesome. Scott, you did, oh, we got a couple more screenshots here.
Oh, this is an injury input form. So this is where they're putting in proof of use and proof of injury. So this is where all those choices are being made and the data is being collected. That's ultimately going to generate the total gross amount.
Cool, and you did all the coding on this yourself? Do I
Yes.
understand that right? Any like lessons learned from developing on the Relativity platform? Good experience?
No, I've
Experience?
used
Really
used
putting him on the
Relativity.
spot there, you know?
Yeah, I use it for a lot of calculations, and I've been developing on it for the last 3 years. But experiences, normally you start off with event handlers, but then when you want to grow bigger and do more, you got to move into the agent space, and the agent platform is pretty robust and allows you to do really mass calculations. So the next version of this is going to actually be all agentized. So we basically throw massive amounts of calculations at one time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
right.
thanks, Scott.
Thank you.